For full episodes as they air, listen to Rants Hollywood Talk on Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, and blogtalkradio.com/GrantsRants. Hey listeners, if you're in the LA area on June 30th, come on over to Rants Hollywood Talk live podcast, Keeping It 100. There's a free champagne bar. What more do you want? A full show with former co-hosts coming in and out. It's going to be a fantastic show. I encourage you to check it out. It's a small donation over on eventbrite.com. That link is in the description beneath this video. I hope you'll check it out and celebrate with me on June 30th here in LA, Rants Hollywood Talk, Keeping It 100, our first live show.
Broadcasting from Hollywood, California, it's Rants Hollywood Talk.
My co-host Erin Martin and I can't stop talking about wild, wild country. Real Housewives of New York City is not failing to impress us. Is Paris Jackson about to fall off the deep end? And which Real Housewife of OC is the latest to get called out? That and more talk right here. Let the ranting begin. I am joined by Erin Martin, host of Pink Shade with Erin Martin, the podcast, and a reality editorial writer on all of the blogosphere and the world of reality TV. Erin, welcome back to the Rants.
Thank you, Grant. It's so good to be with you again.
You know, I've had you on a short list. I was like, I gotta have Erin back. Like, you know what you're talking about. We had a great conversation previously, and I'm on this road to 100 episodes, and I wanted you to come back for sure.
Thank you. I'm so excited. You're going to be doing your live show too. So amazing.
Yeah. Oh, it's like planning a wedding. It's a lot of work. But
I bet it is.
It's going to be great. So yes. And for anyone interested, the tickets will be available on May 15th. So if you're listening before, keep an eye out for those. If you're listening to this after May 15th, you'll know where to find the tickets because you can find them all over my social media. Wild Wild Country, WWC. I'm like, what is this? But it's been taking over my life for the last 5 or 6 days.
Right. That's what it does. This Netflix series is amazing, correct? I mean, it's just like you can obsess about it forever.
It's so good. And the community of Real Housewives watchers and Bravo people and all the, like, people, I noticed like people are really taking to this because it's so well done. And maybe we're used to being spoon-fed subpar programming or characters or whatever, or maybe we're just used to a certain type of reality TV, but this is so real. And it's unbelievable the amount of footage that they have that coincides with this. Now, for those who are not aware of what we're talking about, what the hell is Wild Wild Country? Is a Netflix docuseries. It tells the story of the RHONY, or a utopian community established in rural Oregon in the early 80s by the followers of an Indian mystic, the Bhagwan Rajneesh. It's a real captivating documentary. It's 6 parts. It totals about 6.5 hours. So I was behind it all my shows this week because Wild Wild Country took priority. It just took over.
Oh, absolutely. You have to finish it. Yeah. Once you start, you cannot stop.
Yeah. I hated to see it go in a way, but I also couldn't bank it or save it.
Right. Exactly. You can't just be like, I'll watch one this week. I'll save the next one for next week. No, you just have to get a fake flu, call in sick to work, and just watch the whole thing.
I loved every minute of it because it was, at first, I didn't know if I was going to be into it. So I did casually watch the first one and I had it on. Towards the end, I couldn't even leave the room, to like get a glass of water. I had to like stay there and finish it. For me, this was one of the strongest documentary series I've seen. It was full of twists and turns. The producers of, actually the directors were on Michael Rapaport's podcast. And anyone interested in hearing from them should check it out. It was like an hour and a half. And, Michael, who people know from Watch What Happens Live, that guy just doesn't hold back. So he asked all the questions that I wanted to ask. Like, what the hell is this Sheila woman all about?
Yeah, I mean, she is fascinating. The producers were also on the Jenny McCarthy show on SiriusXM, and I go on there every week to talk Housewives, and then Jenny's producer came on my podcast recently. I'll be releasing an episode about Wild Wild Country and then I went on to another podcast to talk about it because I am obsessed with cults in general. And if you listen to my podcast, you'll note that I do it's a little bit culty. It's mostly reality TV, but I get into cults big time. I was actually born into a cult, and we lived there until I was almost 4 years old. So I tell my story at the beginning of my podcast, but then I just dive into all different kinds of cults too. And I talk about kind of the common threads.
Wow.
But when I watched Wild Wild Country, I was like, I went into it like I do with every cult documentary, which is, I mean, knowing my parents' story and knowing a lot of our friends, who left this cult as well. I kind of come from a place of empathy, or at least sympathy, where I'm like, well, sometimes you don't totally understand what's going on. And the leader, really kind of brainwashes and abuses the people in there. But I really quickly left that behind. I really quickly ditched that when I was watching Wild Wild Country, because I was like, no, these people are like a different breed. They're a different breed than like I'd even say like the Waco, the Branch Davidians, or it was just like, it was very bizarre. Like, didn't you think it was, I don't know what the word is. It was like a high class cult.
Yeah, well,
these are Scientology or something.
Yeah, these are very well educated people with, collegiate degrees, coming in, city planning, creating big agriculture. Yeah, rich. It wasn't like at one point they literally did scrape people off the street, but which is crazy. But
totally crazy.
And initially they said in that interview, I listened to so many yesterday. I believe it's the Michael Rappaport one, but they said that there were about 2,500 people that actually lived on that ranch, but they brought in 5,000 homeless people to live there. So imagine having double the amount of people invading your territory that you've so carefully planned and that you worship, I mean, that must have been a very kind of traumatic experience when it was all said and done. One of those where you look around and you're like, what just happened? Like, I imagine that must have been what it was like.
Yeah. And I thought it was really interesting. You sent me a good article that I was reading just this morning about what some of the cult members who were sannyasins, or in this Rajneeshpuram town that they built, what they thought the documentary didn't include. Because here's what I wondered, like, what do they believe in? What are they doing day to day? What is this whole thing about? Like, what are you buying into? Because most of them were like really educated. I mean, not the homeless people who they brought in. They had money. They seemed like they were on serious psychotropic drugs. I mean, they were just smiling all the time and super, super happy, hugging. So I was like, what is it that they believed in? Or they really didn't touch on that in the documentary. And I was hoping they would, because that's what you want to know about the function of how people get into the cult. There's something there.
The only thing I could relate to is I have practiced Kundalini yoga, but at a corporate gym, at like Crunch Gym. So it wasn't. I mean, there were like, I can't say there were teachings, but the teacher did read some readings from gurus in the past. I don't believe the Bhagwan Rajneesh came up. I wouldn't have remembered, but he did some of those exercises as far as like heavily exerting yourself and switching energies and things like that, and then sitting in complete silence is a practice, and it is a form of dynamic meditation that he's credited with. That's about as much of a connection I could make. But as far as what do they believe? And the directors even said we really wanted to fit in what was a day-to-day for them. And that was a big missing link for me.
Missing link.
I know that they worked 13-hour days and all this, but they had to be on some type of a schedule, because nobody left for the week to go to sit in an office job, off site. They were all there for 7 days a week, working all these hours. Like, what was it that they did? And I still don't really fully understand. I guess there was like a tea hour, and then there was a disco at night, I guess.
Yeah, they showed a disco. I mean, this place, can you believe they built roads, an airstrip? They installed their own electricity. They built all of those, hundreds of A-frames, schools. Yeah, a disco, a coffee shop. It was unbelievable to me what this group actually did, considering like what we can't even get accomplished in a regular town in America or a city, And so I was really impressed by that. But I thought, okay, well, there have to be architects here. There have to be electricians. Like, who is really doing what? That I wanted to see, I guess, more of that. But they only had 6.5 hours, and this story is so crazy that they just probably had to cut out the most mundane details
Yeah.
to fit in all the craziness.
That's what they were saying, like, because this show, as you know from watching, but for those who don't, I mean, it covers federal cases, bioterror attacks, voter fraud. So there were some big themes that they had to cover and get like three different perspectives. You know, the side of the local people, the side of the government, the side of the cult members. So I mean, it took a while to kind of wade through these stories, but they did move through it all really quickly. I want to know, as someone who enjoys, like myself, bitchy women on television, what do you make of Sheila?
Okay, well, like I said, I just recorded an episode with Jenny McCarthy's producer, and we both really love Sheila. Now, I'm gonna couch this in a further explanation, though. We don't think she's a good person, but she was so compelling as a quote character. Like, I could have watched her all day, all night. I wish she would have her own spinoff show where she's just taking care of those people in the old folks' home. I loved watching her. Maybe it's because I'm a Housewives fan, but I thought, like, when she was like, tough titties to the reporters, and she just had these sound bites, and she had this angelic face, but kind of this potty mouth. I loved her.
Yeah.
I loved watching her. She was a total sociopath, but I loved watching her.
She was like the anti-Rajneeshi or Sannyasin, because everybody else had soft looks on their face and human kindness and all these dreams of, you know, open love and all this. And she was all business. In fact, they said, and I believe it was Michael Rappaport's podcast, the director said that she was the only person excused from meditating because she hated wasting time to meditate. So while everyone else was over there with their eyes closed meditating, she was in the background pulling all these stunts.
She was at home building a bunker underneath her house.
And it was a hot tub.
Totally.
She's smart. I like that. Did you catch that? They went down, they showed where her house was at Jesus Grove, which I didn't even know they believed in Jesus. But
Jesus, what was that all about? Exactly. Jesus, where did he come into this?
They went down, she had this little shaft in her bathroom, and then they just cut to a wide shot of a pink hot tub hanging out. I was like, what is this woman's life?
She is a badass. You know, there are Instagram accounts and whole t-shirt companies right now that are just producing Sheila-themed merchandise. Like, you can get t-shirts with her saying this crazy stuff she says. It's so funny.
That woman is resilient, like almost resilient like a roach. Like, you know, it's hard to step on a roach and kill it. Like, that woman will rise up and find a way. But she even said it at the end, not to spoil anything, and this isn't spoiling anything. She said, you know, if I go to heaven or hell, I'll make it my own paradise. I mean, what a way to live, you know?
Yeah, she really, I mean, you know, Erica Jane talks about giving 0 Fs. No, Sheila gives 0 Fs.
She gave
Erica Jane could take a lesson from Sheila, for real.
It's 6.5 hours of very dense content, and I encourage everyone to take a look at it. It's over on Netflix.
Yes.
Now, from dense content to dense mindsets, the Real Housewives of New York, these people... first of all, I have to say, Real Housewives of New York is quickly becoming one of my favorite shows, which I can have more than one, and I have a wide variety of shows that I enjoy. But this show, I'm really, really loving, and it's just off to the 3rd episode as of the time we're recording this podcast. And what can I say? These episodes are flying by, and that's how you know it's good, and it's not something like Beverly Hills where I'm like watching the clock, you know? I'm loving it. How do you feel about New York? I know you love the show in general.
Yes, this is my absolute favorite city of all the Housewives of the whole franchise. And this season, I wrote an article for Reality Tea before the season even came out. And I said top 10 reasons why season 10 of Real Housewives of New York is going to be the best thing we've seen all year. Because just knowing what's going on in their real lives. I mean, just hello, Luann, the Palm Beach incident, like being one of them, knowing that a boat, you know, practically sunk and they were coming home in diapers, allegedly, and that kind of crazy stuff is out there, you know, Bethany's charity. So I was like predicting greatness. And you know how sometimes when you do that, you can be really disappointed. But I'm not disappointed already. Here's what I love about New York. It doesn't even matter what the stories are. I think they're different than Beverly Hills in this way, because Beverly Hills used to be one of my faves too. And it can be again, but not this year. It wasn't. The difference between the New York cast and say like a heavy hitter like Beverly Hills is that the New York ladies, they let their freak flags fly more. They don't curate their presences or their storylines as tightly as say a Lisa Vanderpump. you know, and they kind of let it hang out, and they make mistakes and they're resilient, and people really are forgiving of them. You know, so I really like that it's as not real as this whole grand experiment of Housewives can be. I feel like there are still elements of real with them.
Right.
And I like that. And they're funny too. They're funny in a way that the Beverly Hills chicks are not. They're funnier. Dorinda is funnier.
In my opinion, here's the difference. In Beverly Hills, those women, they're ready to do a scene. In New York, you're not going to give a script or talking points to Sonia Morgan. She's not going to carry it out. Like, you can't rely on her. You know what I mean? Like, she's just going to go in and say and do what she wants. Ramona isn't going to listen to anybody. Bethany sure isn't going to be, you know, told what to say. And Dorinda's pretty real. So I think for the most part, you've got those women that if something's going to happen, it's going to happen, whether there's a producer on the sidelines telling them to bring something up or remember this happened. They're going to do it anyway. I think that's the truth.
Yeah, I mean, compared their Mexico trip last year with Beverly Hills Berlin trip this year. I mean, there's just no comparison.
No, yeah.
None. It's the camaraderie and the fighting and the humor and just like Sonia's, her boob hanging out and then them all putting it back in and just moving on. They're faster paced, just like New York is. You know, it's a fast paced series. I love it.
They fill it. They fill the hour where you can tell at Beverly Hills they're looking to fill it. They're hoping they can fill it.
Right. Dorit's like, will the curtain drop at my fashion show? And we're all like, fast forward, like we care.
Yeah, it's like, what's behind the curtain? Well, the whole show. What do you think you're there for? I mean, there's no jeopardy or surprise.
Like, that's the drama? I don't think so. Or the drama's over, you know, fighting over which stemware that champagne should be served in. No, that's not drama.
I got to say this because while I want to talk about New York, the last thing I'll say about Beverly Hills is just because it's pissed me off so much all season. If anyone has seen my Insta stories, I've been going off that the last episode, the finale was a haircut with Harry Hamlin. I mean, you've got to be kidding me. But when it comes to that show, I wrote it off a long time ago as this is just a lifestyle show sprinkled with a little bit of, in unorganic drama. You know, it's just like, you know, well, don't you feel upset about this? And, you know, maybe you should talk to her about your friendship and all that. Like, that's as good as it's going to get, unfortunately, because it didn't always used to be like that. But I've written that show off, and I hate to say it, but I really have. It is what it is. It's exactly as it appears. Not all these housewives are going to be high drama, and not all of them are going to have amazing seasons. I still have hope and a candle in the window for OC, but for Beverly Hills, it's as it is. For me, it's exactly as it appears, especially if they value someone like Teddy Mellencamp. So, just saying.
I like that rant. I co-sign on that rant.
There you go. That's a real Grant's rant.
That's a real great. You know what? I'm going to play that back when I need a little pep in my step. Yeah,
I'll tell you. That's the truth according to me.
I like it.
Anyway, Carol, so, you know, last season we saw that her big episode was about the election. Then she kind of faded off. So my prediction was that her big episode is going to be this race, and then her storyline will be over episode 2. But it doesn't really look that way. The one thing I'm not surprised that we learned in the most recent episode is that she's supposedly very unreachable and unreliable and slow to get back to people. And I believe it. We all have those friends. And I believe that she'd be the one in that group that would be a little hard to pin down.
Yeah, I can see that too. And I can see, you know, the rift between Bethany and Carol happening. It looks like it's already starting. Tinsley being Carol's new sidekick, basically. And yeah, I think there is some truth to what Bethany is saying, you know, and I know a lot of people have issues with Bethany, but putting that aside, just looking at the friendship structure right now, Carol does seem like the type to just kind of, you know, get a new bestie or sidekick and push you away without very much emotion, you know, just like because look at how her relationship with Adam, she was like, yeah, he lives here, but he's not really my boyfriend. No, I'm making him move out now. She's just kind of like that chick, you know?
Yeah. Carol now is being a little bit more vocal. She tweeted about Bethany as in a response to the most recent episodes. She said, "It's a good idea not to ask your friend, 'Are you done?' when running for 6 hours. Just congrats, hope you're good, something just nice." And then she later went on to say, "No one is ever truly happy for me. Snarky about my relationships, my friends, and my accomplishments. Remember the 3 dance tunes comment? What is she referring to? 3 dance tunes.
I read that too, and I was like, what is she talking about? There's someone listening right now who's going to be like, oh my God, you guys don't know what that is.
I was hoping you did. Yeah.
I don't know what she's talking about.
Yeah. I've always wondered if Carol was the Cynthia Bailey of New York. Like we told the story years ago and they're still there, but they're too afraid to shake anything up. I mean, I don't know. I'm interested in seeing where it goes, but I was never invested in Bethany and Carol's relationship and friendship. So to me, that they had a falling out doesn't really mean much to me. But I mean, I'm sure I'll see it. I'm sure we'll see it play out. So.
Same here. And you know what? Carol running a marathon and Tinsley showing up. Just be thankful somebody came, because nobody, I'll just say it. I've had friends who run marathons. I walk down, I'll watch them if it's close by and convenient, but I'm certainly not buying a ticket, going through the rain to see someone like wander by for 3 seconds.
Yeah.
No, it's just nobody really does that.
No, you're not going to get those women to do it. No.
And especially your castmates who you work with who really aren't your best friends.
Exactly.
And Bethany had said she was actually somewhere else doing some PR work or doing some humanitarian work. The whole thing is just kind of Carol's sad attempt to have some drama, I think, but there is so much deeper drama with like Dorinda and Sonia, and of course what's coming for Luann, which is like the dramatic irony that hangs over the whole season.
Yeah.
That Carol's just really trying to she's trying to make Carol happen. It's not going to happen.
Stop making Carol happen. Yeah, no, I know. I think that we've told her story a long time ago, but anyway, let's switch gears. Looking at Paris Jackson, 20 years old. And I've always really kind of liked her. To me, she's like Hollywood elite, but doesn't really know it just by virtue of existing. But the Jackson family is now fearing for her life and fearing that she's lost it. There was an article over on page 6. Did you have a chance to look at that?
I did. I looked at it, and I have to tell you, I haven't followed anything with her except watching her when, very, very polished pictures of her come up on magazine covers or something. So I was kind of shocked. I was like, what? This is like a Lindsay Lohan moment for her, circa 2006 or something. But I don't know. I guess fill us in on everything you know, because I just saw this article and I was like, oh my God, does she need an intervention?
Right. So there's an Instagram video. I did not see the video. It was posted. It probably was like an Insta story, and they didn't just word it correctly because those disappear. But she was walking along a skyscraper's ledge or edge, not sober, apparently. That's what people concluded after watching the video. And she lost her balance and fell into her alleged girlfriend's arms or someone's arms that she was with and said, "I almost died." And then, I mean, it's not laughing at her. I'm just saying, like, it's so dramatic. And, like, this girl, if only she knew, like, I feel like if anyone should know the dangers of substance abuse, it should be her. You'd think she wouldn't want to touch, like, a vitamin. You'd think she wouldn't want to even eat a vitamin. You'd think someone like her would, like, live off the land holistically and be like, I want nothing to do with chemicals, drugs, anything.
That might be her when she gets to 35, 40, but it's pretty typical for especially the daughter of an addicted father. That's the strongest tie there is to continue on with that addiction. But it's so sad. Like, I read it and I was really sad because I thought she's 20. And I'm just going to put my judgy pants on right now. I looked at her and I thought, girl, I cannot believe you're 20 and you've already tattooed your whole body up to that level. You are going to be so pissed off at your former self.
You really are. I know. I feel that way all the time. Especially when people like put tattoos like on their stomachs, like that. What do you think is going to happen?
Oh, as a woman, no. If you want to have a baby too, it's like, girl, do not put anything there. Don't put anything there. It's like a shrinky dink in the toaster oven. It like expands and shrink. Oh, forget it.
Yeah.
Bad.
Like you mentioned, 20 years old. I'm not judging her. I'm just saying this is the report. She's had 3 suicide attempts. She's been cyberbullied. She's dealt with sexual assault, and she's had multiple sobriety issues. I mean, again, I like this girl. I think it's too bad. I think she has a lot of potential. She doesn't even realize the potential she has and the connections that she has in LA that she could be literally whatever she wants.
I know. But she's 20. I mean, Grant, I don't know. I'm so glad nobody had any kind of cameras on me when I was 20, especially, I mean, the daughter of Michael Jackson. And can I just say, I don't know if you want to delete this or not, but I don't think she is the daughter of Michael Jackson. I mean, who really does?
Oh, just
I think
say it. Yeah.
Yeah, she is not the biological daughter of Michael Jackson. She can't be. But she's okay. For all intents and purposes, we're calling her the daughter of Michael Jackson, and he raised her as his own. So that is her father, her deceased father. So that is her legacy. Does she even, having grown up in that wild bubble, though, understand the ramifications of that? Like, me, who I'm the age where I was in grade school when Thriller came out, which is really dating me right now. So, I mean, I grew up like with that Michael Jackson is like, right under God type of, and then he fell from grace. I saw the whole thing, and then him having these kids and now them being adults. It's like, I just look at it from this perspective of, yeah, they're so important to me, but does she see it that way? Or does she just see it as some like crazy burden? I don't know.
Right.
It's always interesting.
Yeah.
Like, because I've never been an insider in a famous world like that. Like, what is it really like to be her? It must be so bizarre.
It must be. I mean, you don't have to really be responsible for really much because I feel like that girl like raised herself because I don't know if anyone realizes it, but I mean, Joe and Catherine Jackson are like barely, I can't believe they're still alive. I mean,
God.
I thought Joe Jackson, I thought he died like years ago. Like those people, I can't believe they're still around. They're like ancient. They're like two relics. I mean, how are they supposed to raise this girl who's 20 years old? And all those stray kids, all those stray kids.
Seriously, there's like Jermaine's kid. Yeah, I don't know. She is probably just like searching for someone to, take her in. I don't know. This girlfriend too. I didn't know she had this girlfriend who I just saw her picture. I know nothing about her. I don't know if you know anything about this. Kara Delevingne.
I guess I read that they met at like the MTV Movie Awards.
Oh God.
I know. Yeah. Why not? So the other Paris Hilton and Kathy Hilton, they've been kind of tight with her recently. They've been posting some pictures. Paris Jackson and Paris Hilton were presenting an award at a charity gala for Kathy. And they posted some pictures, so hopefully Kathy can be a good influence. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe, but not Kim. Get Kim out of there.
Oh, yeah, not Kim.
Yeah, Kim is not
Richards
a good influence.
Doesn't need to be.
No, would not be a good. She'd be like, this is what pushing 60 looks like when you're still doing this.
Oh, man.
Yeah, that would not be good. I feel like, wouldn't it be awesome if Drew Barrymore like opened, just a Drew Barrymore's
school for girls.
A school for like famous kids who are just hitting that 22-year-old phase. Just before they totally embarrass themselves and ruin their lives, she could just scoop them up, like send a Scientology white van down, just throw them in there and just like fix them. It'd be amazing. Yeah. I'm just trying to think of like stars who lived through it and got to the other side. There's very few.
My final thought on Paris Jackson is I don't feel very positive for her future. I don't know. I mean, I did for a minute when she was doing the magazines and she was working on things, but the idle hands, it doesn't sound like she's doing much. So I was a fan of hers and I still am, but I wish her the best, but I don't have the best feeling with her. So we'll have to keep an eye on that one. All right, we'll be back in a moment. We're going to be looking at what's happening over in Real Housewives of Orange County land while they're in production. And then we're going to be talking more with Erin, and we're going to learn more about her podcast. From the last time she was on, she's created this podcast. And I'm telling you, if you like this one, you'll like hers. So we'll be back with that and more in a moment. Now this.
Movie Roulette. Hi, I'm Andy from Movie Roulette, a podcast where one spin of the roulette wheel decides the fate of each episode. We are one part game show, one part movie critique, and one part blabby podcast. And I'll have my co-host Sam tell you how funny we are.
We're really funny, but let me just double check with my co-host Marcos.
Yeah, we're quite funny.
So check us out today, wherever you listen to your podcast. It's Movie Roulette, as in movie roulette.
Movie Roulette. You're listening to Grant's Rants. Subscribe and spread the word. There are a lot more rants to come. Listen anytime on all major podcasting platforms. And now, back to the show.
And we're back talking with Erin Martin from Pink Shade with Erin Martin, the podcast. And this Abby Lee Miller, she's back in the news, diagnosed with cancer, unfortunately, at a halfway house. People magazine says that she had a emergency surgery, treatment for a potential cancer that paralyzed her from the neck down.
Yeah, I read that and I was like so confused. I mean, did you know anything about this? Or
Paralyzed.
This is out of nowhere. And then it says the surgery was like a 4-hour surgery and she got vertebrae removed. I mean, this sounds like some kind of really intense procedure.
Yeah. Paralyzed. I mean, I'm not making fun of her, but when things happen to Abby Lee Miller, they really happen. They
really happen. You know what? It's like, okay, I'll just say it. It's like a really strong karma. You know what I mean? Like she really
I'm sure
gets,
people
like,
feel that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I feel like she really gets intense payback.
I mean, cancer's serious, but
no,
I mean,
I don't wish
this
on anyone.
No,
I don't wish this on anyone.
right.
So no angry tweets, please. But I'm just saying she really has some dramatic things happen to her this year. And you know what? She's a person who could also really turn it around because she's at the bottom. You know, she went to jail. Now her health is hanging in the balance. These are the kind of the things that happen in your life. They can, and you can grow from them, or you could just sink into despair. So I don't know. Maybe she'll turn things around.
I hope so. I wish her luck. What do I call her? Thug Abby Lee Miller. We wish you well from here at Grants Rants. Let's take a look at Tamra in OC. She's in a controversy. Now, her husband Eddie's been in the hospital for a 4th heart procedure. Anyone following Tamra on Instagram knows this. And I guess her dog Bronx has cancer. It's a tough time.
And didn't she put her butt on show last year because she had some mole on her rear that she was telling everyone it was precancerous or cancer she had removed. So
melanoma, yeah.
Melanoma, yeah, which is actually nothing to laugh about. That's serious. But this Eddie thing, I had no idea he had heart problems. And she's saying it's the 4th procedure in 4 months. And I'm like, okay, this is out of the blue. They never even spoke of it on the show. So is this a new thing?
I know, because they present him as like the picture of health. Like he runs that gym. He's in amazing shape. He does the mud runner. He does, all these
Spartan race.
He does all this stuff. So no one would ever guess that someone like him, Mr. Health, would have any health problems. But I mean, it's too bad. It's serious. I guess what they did was they had to have a cardio version, which restores the normal heart rhythm. So I guess he has like an irregular heartbeat. Is that what it is?
Yeah, and I think that's pretty common, healthy or not. I think that's more of a genetic thing. Not common, but I think it's more genetic than like your state as a healthy or non-healthy person.
Mm-hmm.
So like a heart murmur can just be something you inherit from your genes that you have. So I don't know, something about putting these hospital pictures on social media. I don't know if I'm just old school, but I'm like, never. Like, I don't want to see it. And I would never in a million put anyone, of course, I'm not a reality star, but I would just never like take the phone into a hospital and just put myself or any loved ones on blast.
Yeah.
They're just, I feel like at the bottom of the barrel. The hospital selfies are the bottom of the barrel for me.
I think maybe Tamara's trying to like court as many prayers as she can. Like that's the only thing I can justify it with. You know what I mean? Like just by telling people to pray and getting the masses of people. But to me, like you, it's private. Like, who needs it? Is it that
There
important?
just is no privacy. There's no privacy in the Housewives world, though. I get it, but did you hear she got like, so she went from everybody pray for him, power of prayer, hashtag prayer works, God is in my life, to just like totally reaming people out on social media.
I did not see it. What is the controversy? But I would love to know because, I know there's a controversy, and I figured Erin will know. So fill us in.
She's such a piece of work. I mean, it just cracks me up that she's always like, I love Jesus, I'm getting baptized. And then she, is still she's the old Tamra that we all know and love to hate. So she went to go right after Eddie's heart procedure. She went to go be with Shannon Beador while Shannon was selling her, I think, like frozen food from her new food line on QVC, which good for her. Good for Shannon. I'm team Shannon because David is acting like such an ass.
Yeah.
That I really hope Shannon, I hope she gets a revenge body, revenge business, revenge boyfriend. Anyway, so Tamra went to go be with her, and I'm sure it had something to do with filming because I'm this has to be on the show. Are they filming right now? I would assume they are.
Currently are.
So okay, so we'll probably be seeing that. Tamara was there. And where's QVC? In Philly, correct?
I believe so.
Across the country. And so it turned into a moment where people were basically calling Tamara out, just like Tamara called Gretchen out when her fiance, remember her old fiance?
Yes.
I don't even remember his name, was on. And Tamara was like, "Did you go to Bass Lake?" To Gretchen.
That was like
when he was sick.
That was the original Real Housewives scandal, in my opinion. That's where it all started. Yep.
Totally. That was like one of the first scandals that everyone talked about because people did think Gretchen was a little bit shady and gold diggery. Anyway, so people were basically pulling a "did you go to Bass Lake" move on Tamara. Like, your husband is in the hospital and you're across the country at QVC shilling food with Shannon. And she went nuts on people. So you guys can look it up. I don't know if it was Twitter or Instagram, but it was screenshotted and passed all over the place. So she went from prayers and hugs and God works in my life to, "You guys can all just take a seat and blah, blah, blah." I don't know what she said exactly. It was very Tamara. It was, a lot of misspellings and a lot of exclamation points. But she was very mad. She was very upset.
What was the controversy that she left her husband's bedside to go?
Yes. That she was basically like, the love of my life. Like, he's in so much pain. Everybody pray. And then she's like, "See ya. I got to go to work," so.
Right.
And, it's fine. I don't care. I don't hate her at all for doing that. And it's no big deal. I think it was just because she had called Gretchen out so many years ago. So, of course, Housewives fans, we have long memories. So you do anything like that, and the moment it can come back to haunt you, it will, because of the viewers.
Well,
so that's what happens.
I would count on that coming up because these housewives, they follow social media, and someone can easily latch onto that and create that as their own storyline and say, "Oh, well, I feel that you shouldn't have left your husband's bedside for that," and then it'll totally create its own thing. So I'm sure we'll see it all play out.
Yeah.
But, for those who do watch a lot of these shows, they should really check out your podcast. Because you go through you cover so much in the reality TV landscape, and you really have a great. I hate to keep you because you know what your show is, but for those listening, her show, she's got folks on there, and her ear is to the ground. So if they're not on there, she's reporting back what she's been hearing. So I enjoy the show. Tell us how it came to be, because I mentioned the last time you were on, it hadn't yet come to fruition yet.
Yeah, thanks, Grant. Thanks for listening too. I appreciate it. It's really a new endeavor. I'm only on episode, 26, 27, something like that. I started it in December as an outgrowth of my writing on reality T. I've been writing for reality T for about 4 years now, and I've been covering shows and recaps, and I've been doing, quote, news articles, really just like, where's Kim Kardashian? Did she have her baby? That kind of thing. So it was like a world that I was in, and I'm a fan. I will say that too. I'm of course snarky when I talk about all of these people, as we all are, as is our right, I believe.
Right.
But I'm a fan. I'm like a true fan of these shows, and I don't really discriminate. I watch, of course, all of Bravo. I'm doing Housewives, Southern Charm, Vanderpump Rules. I am 2 feet in with Jersey Shore. I have been since the beginning. I have a long history. I'm old enough where I have a long history with reality television. And TLC, WeTV, Lifetime. I am so in deep with 90 Day Fiancé. I don't know if you've gone down that dark road yet, Grant, but it's truly become one of my guiltiest and favorite pleasures. It's coming back May 20th, and I always recap that on reality T, and I cover it in depth, and I cover like behind the scenes nuggets that I get from 90 Day filming and production, because I cannot get enough of that show. To me, it's like my reality roots when I watch it. It's basically, it goes back to the time before reality stars became super self-aware. And it truly has suspense in it. Like you think, oh my God, like what is going to happen to this? Is this person being sold into sexual slavery or are they really in love? Like it's like a Greek drama. It really is. Sometimes it's a tragedy. Sometimes it's a comedy.
With me, I just don't look at the TLC shows. They're just not on my radar. They're just, for whatever reason, it's like some things, some networks, you just don't know what's on them. And that's like with TLC for me. Yeah. I know I'm missing out because I heard you talk about it in your most recent episode with there's people in Morocco that are holding up production and all this stuff. I mean, it really does sound interesting. Are they as much of a train wreck as they are as the one where they get out of jail? Love After Lockup. Is it like that?
Love After Lockup is an outgrowth of 90 Day Fiancé because that show was so popular. That is the same production team, same producers as 90 Day Fiancé. That's why Love After Lockup was created because 90 Day Fiancé got up to, I want to say 2 plus million viewers every Sunday night last year for the first time because it has such word of mouth has traveled. It's not like, so I'll just tell, like Teen Mom, the polygamy shows, they have their place and I totally understand why they have huge fans. I'm not a watcher of those. And those tend to be like the TLC wheelhouse. Something about 90 Day it just happens to be on TLC, but it could be on any network. It is so insanely good. It's a different level. And then Love After Lockup that went on WeTV, I think TLC rejected it because it was even like a step down.
Oh, yeah. It was real low end.
It was real low end, but I loved it too because it was real drama and people love to get on Facebook groups and talk about it. So I created the Pink Shade with Erin Martin Facebook group and we just love to get really messy and talk about all these people. And you know what? I like also these, I would say lower shows or non-Bravo shows. The people who are appearing on these shows, you can reach out to them. And a lot of times I can get them to come on and interview them. I interviewed 2 people from a new show on Lifetime just this week and a couple weeks ago, Love at First Flight. It's a pretty interesting show. It's like Amazing Race meets Married at First Sight. And so they don't have like that Bravo firewall, hardcore publicist. And it's just a little more boots on the ground. I really like that kind of stuff. And then I talk a lot about cults when I can too. So I've covered Waco. I've covered, like I said, my own family story. We were part of the KOBU, which is the Church of Bible Understanding, led by a very crazy man who is still alive today. So I talk about him and, how my parents, they were basically teenagers when they got in there. And, I wasn't very old when I got out. So nothing tragic happened to me or them truly, but it's interesting because I have had a lot of ex-cult members reach out to me. I interview one of them.
That's fascinating. That is just fascinating, especially that you have a personal connection to that world. Like I look at it through the lens of Scientology, like we were talking about Wild Wild Country. Like what's the most fascinating to me about that is the people that got out of Wild Wild Country, that RHONY cult, they still love and view it as the best time in their life. Yet something like Scientology, people, when they get out of it, they view it as like a waste of their life, So I just think it's fascinating.
It is fascinating. And it's always fascinating what happens between the people and the leader and then the people and one another too. Because like Scientology reminds me more of the cult I was in that people who got out are very glad they got out and like almost don't want to talk about it. You know what I mean? It's very hard for me to actually get people to talk about the cult that my family was in unless they were the children like me, because we don't have the guilt of joining. We were just like, we had no decision making powers over this, so we don't have that like hanging over our heads. So we'll talk about it more openly. You can often find the children of cult members will come forward and really talk about their parents' stories, which I know is like secondhand removed more than the actual people in it because they feel guilty. They feel like they were taken for a ride because they often were, and they were fleeced of all their money, just like Scientology did that. The cult my parents were in did that. I mean, the cult my parents were in was actually spoofed on Seinfeld as the Sunshine Carpet Cleaning Company. I don't know if you remember that episode with George when they're like, it's a cult, don't let them in. So my dad was actually one of those carpet cleaners, like in the real cult. They would go and clean carpets and then try to save people. It was just really bizarre. But anyway, it's a crazy story. I just got put in contact with Tony Natalie, who is Keith Rainier. It's the leader of the Nexium cult, which is really a hot topic right now. Keith Rainier is the leader. He is a crazy person. His ex-partner, his ex-girlfriend, and someone who he has been embroiled in lawsuits with is telling her story to all kinds of news outlets right now. And I just got her information, and I think she might be up for coming on the podcast. So fingers crossed. I'm going to be talking to her soon about the Nexium cult and the inner workings. She has a lot to say, and she has a lot to say about how it really mirrored Scientology, because it was one of those cults where they looked very professional, like the one my parents was in. It was a bunch of crazy hippies, like total, almost like a Rajneeshi thing. Like they
Yeah.
were wearing crazy outfits. They looked like cult members. But like when you look at Scientology or NXIVM, it's like very professional, attractive people with money. It's a harder thing to pick apart sometimes because they look like they're successful, and sometimes they even are. There's different flavors of cults. I love talking about cults.
Right.
Can you tell? So
Yeah,
if you're
love it.
interested in
Yeah,
that-
you clearly know what you're talking about, and I have a question for you. Now, so obviously Scientology is still alive and happening. A lot of these other cults are things that ended poorly, or a lot of the ones that I'm aware of are no longer.
Tragically.
Yeah. How active are cults? Are they in a healthy place? Are they quiet right now? Are there new ones being developed, or are kind of the old school ones still hanging on? What's the current status of cults?
Cults are in a very bad place right now, which is great news. You know what I mean? Because people are talking about them more than ever. I think the heyday of cults, for just a little historical perspective, at least in America, and even if you're going to say involve Europe in that, and in India, where a lot of the cults like kind of either started or went to, it was really the 60s, 70s, and bleeding into the 80s where they were really strong. Now that tends to happen like offshoots of basically counterculture movements start whenever there's upheaval. Like I feel like right now is a really ripe time for new cults to begin. If I'm just going to be totally honest.
Yeah, you're right.
Because whenever you're really upset with the current regime, or you feel like basically the government's not working for you, your parents don't understand you, the whole generation above you has broken the world, you will be very susceptible to following a leader who has new, even wacky ideas, who tells you we are going against everything you ever believed. All of these people are liars, and we're going to create a new world. And so that's how cults begin, because you start believing in a message that tells you, I'm gonna help you break out of this world that is so dysfunctional that you're in right now. And so it can be someone who's feeling lost, or it can be someone who just really truly wants a better life. So there's another misnomer about people who join cults is that they're all the same. I mean, knowing personally many of them myself, there's a wide range of people. There's some people who get out of a cult and they're very successful. There's some people who are broken for life. There's some people who wander into it because they had terrible parents. There's some people who wander into it because they just want to rebel against their perfect family. It's very interesting to talk to ex-cult members, because I think we get the idea that they all are just really gullible people, and they might be in some sense, but cults right now, I don't think they're super popular because everybody really gets into, the problems, because they're obviously organizations that prey on victims, and they're this is not something you ever want to join. But I think there is definitely, there's a feeling out there that comes during any of these times where you're really upset with the powers that be, that you, like I said, you're susceptible to listen to somebody.
Wow.
And all
right.
it takes is one person to get a little bit of power and a few followers, and then things grow from there. Yeah. Yeah,
it is a susceptible time. It is. It's kind of scary to think about, but we could be on the verge of a new influx of them.
And nobody ever says, I'm joining a cult. They say, I'm joining a group. I'm joining a religion. I'm joining a new church. I mean, my mom wouldn't call the group we were in a cult until just, recently. And, she's in her 60s. So and that's not because she didn't think it was. It just didn't feel like one to her. It was just a group. You know what I mean? Like people on the outside call things a cult. The Rajneeshis didn't call that a cult. They called it whatever they called it, so it's just, I don't know. I love that. Right. I love dissecting that world because it's very layered.
It is. I'm really getting more into it. I'm almost afraid because I know I'm going to go down the rabbit hole. I know I will.
You and I could. Maybe we'll start a third podcast. Grant and Erin find new cults.
That sounds like they're coming.
They're coming.
It sounds like it.
Times of civil and political unrest produce the best music and the most cults.
Well, good luck with the internet these days. I feel like the internet is the downfall of all of that because of just these truth bombs, but who knows? So where can we keep up with you? How can we find the podcast? How can we listen to you over on the Jenny McCarthy show? I want to know.
So yeah, you can subscribe to the podcast, and I hope you check it out. It's on, like I said, Pink Shade with Erin Martin. It's on iTunes, Stitcher. I'm hosted on acast.com, and you can find it on a bunch of other platforms too, basically anywhere you listen to podcasts. You can go to my website, pinkshadewitherinmartin.com, and that has links to all of the podcast episodes. It has links to my Patreon page where I spill a lot of inside dirt about Housewives and, things I find out from different producers, things I can't say on the regular podcast, basically.
Smart.
So we're building a little community there. And you can follow me on Instagram and Twitter at Erin Leah Martin. I'm on the Jenny McCarthy Show, SiriusXM Channel 109 every Thursday. Jenny and I talk about Real Housewives. We go deep on 90 Day Fiancé because she is 2 feet into that right now. She got completely obsessed. She and Donnie Wahlberg both got obsessed. It was so funny. So we are always talking about that when it's on. And I'm on realityt.com and 22words.com. I write for both of those sites. So check my writing will be linked up on my website too.
That's great. I mean, that's a lot of work. And you're a mom. I mean, that's a lot. So, definitely support Erin. You guys can find more information in the description of this episode. And Erin, I look forward to staying in touch with you and talking more, especially if we can ever get a follow-up to this wild, wild country.
Yes, I love it. I wait for it, and I would love to talk to you about it. Thank you so much for having me, Grant.
You're welcome. All right, thanks for listening. We'll be back with more rants. My thanks to Erin, and we'll be back.
This has been Grant's Rants. Support the Rants on Patreon. Follow us on Twitter at It's Grant's Rants. Cover art created by RHONY. Voiceover by Aw Yeah. Original theme music composed by Alexander Arntzen. The Grant Michael Collection.